What's up guys, Saiyan here coming at you with another Dragon Ball CCG deck profile. And today I'm going to show you the Majin deck, as you could tell from the title of this video. So let's jump right into it. As usual, starting with 25 warriors, turn zeros first. We're running 3 Piccolo Juniors. Um, Mostly because we're looking to evolve into an adult Piccolo on turn 4. That will be this guy, but I will come back to that in a little while. We also run 3 copies of King Cold, mostly to fix our turn 2 Frieza, which again, for most of the viewers that are here for Dragon Ball CCG, you guys will know that this is definitely one of my favorite early game cards. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. Also remember that King Cole can be sagged in the strategy phase for a 1 chi payment to heal one of your freezes or coolers. So you always have that added benefit as well. So we got 3 Piccolo Juniors, 3 King Colds, and we also run 2 copies of the Turn Zero Master Roshi. Probably the best zero drop in the game, and I say this on and on and on. It has backup, it's a 2-2, but you can spend 1 generic chi to make him a 3-1. So early game, with a little bit of an extra benefit, he can go toe-to-toe with all the other turn 0 3 power cards. And later in the game, he's not going to be useless because he's going to give us 2 support, which is very important. And finally, for turn zeros, we are also running 2 old Kais. This is mostly an alien unique deck, as you can tell from our turn zeros already. Old Kai fits the bill perfectly, gives us both, or well, either or chi, and also the core recycling effect of Old Kai, obviously really well known. Later in the game, it will be extremely beneficial, particularly when you start to get towards the late game and your deck might not have many cards left in there. So this is turn 0/turn 1. Because we actually run 10 turn 0 cards, we are skipping turn 1. The ideal curve would be to start with any one of these 2 guys and then hit an Old Kai or a Master Roshi. But if you end up hitting a Master Roshi, you can spend that 1 chi and you can still attack or defend when he goes out battling. So that's a very good little starting hand. Turn 0, turn 1 all sorted. Let's move on to turn 2. Turn 2, as I mentioned, we run the set 1 booster super rare Frieza, not the starter. Starter is not great, but if you only have access to that, it's still a good replacement for this guy. I say not great, it's still searchable of King Cold. It's still a 3-3, and it will be a 1-1 if injured. But this guy I particularly like because he's technically a 3-4. Once you get a Dragon Ball on this guy, every strategy phase, you and your opponents, you can give, well, ideally your lead warrior +1/+0. You just want to make sure you do not lose. I mean, you can win, you can draw. If you lose, you have to literally send that guy to the discard. That's obviously not what we want to do with this guy. We're just trying to like pump our head warrior. +1 is very important, particularly early game. And besides Frieza, because this is a competitive deck, it's a very competitive deck actually, we are running 3 Dr. Relos. Dr. Relo really shouldn't need any introduction. Does everything. Plunder also allows you to ramp extra chi, and with tool techniques he also draws a card. Just a really good card. So this is our turn 2. Because obviously a quarter of our deck our turn 0 warriors, we really need to be conscious as to how much space our other cards will take up. So we're immediately jumping to turn 4. And for turn 4, first of all, we're looking at Pycon. Pycon is, I want to say he's a good card, but he needs to be in a specific deck. This deck is one of those decks where you really want to have access to a Pycon. Now, the set 3 Pycon is also good. In fact, the set 3 Pycon is really good as a support warrior, but I wanted to have a bit of a hand disruption, chi disruption package. So PyCon, and of course we got the two Piccolos, which I've shown previously. I'm showing these Piccolos at turn 4 because ideally we want to evolve our Piccolo Junior into this Piccolo. We don't want to spend the two chi. Um, Even if you like end up drawing into Piccolo Junior, it's still cheaper to play that and then play Piccolo. Uh, you basically lose 2 cards from your hands, whereas if you play Piccolo without the evolution, it costs you 2 and a card from your hand. So it's always preferable to evolve him from Piccolo Junior. And besides that, when this Warriors team wins a victory or an outstanding victory, your opponent discards a card from their hand. Now they choose the card, that's fine, but it works really well with PyCon. If at the end of your opponent's turn, if none of your opponent's warriors became the user of a technique, your opponent must either pay a chi or they have to discard a card from their hand to their choosing. More often than not, card advantage is extremely important in this game. You only get 6 cards, that's your hand limit. Any hand disruption can be quite fundamental to win in this game. So that's our little kind of disruption package. I'm gonna come back to these guys in a little while, so I'm gonna put them here on the side for now. And also moving with other turn 4 cards, we have 2 of the set 5 Boo. The set 5 Boo is another really good support warrior with that 3-4 stats. Again, also has backup, same as PyCon. And you can also, in the action phase, move this warrior to your discard area, and you make the warriors you control basically invulnerable for that turn. They cannot be damaged for that turn. And this can be really important in reaction to your opponent playing a Kamehameha with Goku, or maybe a Big Bang attack, which we're going to talk about in a little while. It can stop a number of very effective destruction techniques. But if your opponent like buffs their cards and you would have an overwhelming loss, then you just sack the Boo and you basically save 2 of your guys. That's really, really important to be able to get into that next turn. Won't happen too often, but if it does, this Boo can save the game for you. There's another reason why we're running Boo. Obviously, it's a Majin deck, so Boo is the first Majin that we are looking at. I'm going to leave him here on the side as well, because we're going to talk about this guy in a while as well. Moving on to turn 5, we are running 2 of the set 5 Super Saiyan Vegetas. This card is, I really like this card, but I wish the art was just a little bit better. It's not the worst art, don't get me wrong, but it's also not very exciting. But what the card does is very exciting, though. So it has the built-in cheapening effect for all requirement Vegeta techniques. So rather than having to pay 3 chi cost, you only have to pay 2 chi cost. You don't need to have a Dragon Ball on Vegeta, and they get -2 turn cost as well. Which means when this guy comes down, this guy is immediately capable on turn 5 to shoot Final Flash, Big Bang Attack. And of course, Galley Gun is a turn 5, so that's not a problem, but can also play Galley Gun cheaper. He's also imperative for the deck because, of course, we are going to be going into Majin Vegeta. But before we talk about Majin Vegeta, just having a quick look at this guy, he's also very good to look at the top 3 cards of your planet, and he can take any techniques. We're running 12 techniques in this deck, so he is going to be a very good get yourself another card kind of engine, hopefully. Although I am known to whiff of that effect more often than not. The second part of the Boo package, we have Kid Boo, 2 copies. This guy is fantastic. Anybody who's played this game and played with or against Kid Buu knows that this is probably the best card for that cost benefit turn cost value that you can get. First of all, it's an 8/2, 6/1 on turn 6. That's amazing. That's already huge. I mean, if you look at Super Saiyan 3 Goku is a turn 7 card. It comes down as a 7/3. Yes, he gets extra buffs if you have extra chi, but and also we can look at Majin Vegeta in a second. He's an 8/2, but he's a 7 turn cost card, and you also need to sack another Vegeta to bring it into play. So Kid Buu is just an extremely strong card. He's also got Fierce 2 and Toughness, so really difficult to get rid of him, and he's going to be milling your opponent's deck really well. And that effect at the bottom, when he's got a Dragon Ball, if when an opponent's opposing warrior is discarded due to showdown, it is put into the planet damage area instead of the chi, which is huge. Can win you the game out of nowhere. You know, if your opponent's trying to be like, well, okay, I can kind of get away with um, you know, maybe taking a victory. Yes, maybe my lead warrior is already injured. Well, you bring out Kid Buu, and then that's it. They may just immediately lose the game of that. Now, when you got these 2 Buus in play, you can fuse into Majin Buu from your fusion deck. This guy is an absolute beast. I absolutely love this fusion card. It is just so good. Probably not played very often, but when it is played, it's going to take over the game, because what this guy does, and when this guy is really good, is to get rid of your opponent's fusion card. So if your opponent's banking on just completely killing you with Gogeta, or your opponent's having a you know, Goku is a very strong one, and even a Gotenks can, you know, cause a lot of havoc, let alone Vegito, which cannot be harmed by any techniques with a turn cost of 6 or below. This Majin Buu, when it comes into play, it just puts one of your opponent's warriors back on the top of your opponent's deck. So for fusion warriors, that means bye-bye, because they cannot go back into the deck. They leave the game. And all of a sudden, if you think about it, your opponent has paid 2 warriors from the game to fuse into 1 warrior. Then you bring down your Majin Buu and you get rid of that guy. It's just absolutely fantastic. Doesn't have to be used for fusion warriors though. This guy can just, you know, pick any of your opponent's warriors. Let's say your opponent has a Super Saiyan 3 Goku, or you're looking down the barrel playing against the future Trunks that on an outstanding victory just takes apart your opponent's um, planet damage. You just take this Majin Buu, put it back on the top of your opponent's deck. First of all, you got an 8/4 in play now. He's very good on lead, he's very good on support, and you have basically just removed one of your opponent's warriors. Now, with all the other cards we have in the deck, this removal effect will be very important indeed. And the final warrior of the deck, again, just keeping with the Majin theme here, we have Majin Vegeta. There's a number of reasons why we have this guy in here. First of all, he's such an underrated card. Not only is the art absolutely fantastic, I just absolutely adore how this card looks. Very difficult to get into play indeed, but uh, its effect, I think, has been underrated in the past. Um, you need to pay the chi cost, 1 blue, 1 green, to get an 8/2, 7/1 warrior. So whether he's healthy or injured, he's an absolute beast to deal with. You cannot play this guy before turn 7. The only way to play this guy, because it says on the card, to put this warrior into play. So it doesn't, you can't cheat the system. This is basically deploying, but this is also putting into play by card effects. You will not be able to put Majin Vegeta into game unless your turn counter shows 7 and you're able to remove a Vegeta from play. Then you can play Majin Vegeta, and basically he moves one of your opponent's warriors with a turn cost of 5 or less to their chi area. So again, just straight up removal. Extremely, extremely disgustingly good. Majin Vegeta comes in against so many great cards. Turn 4, turn 5 warriors, they just completely bow down to Majin Vegeta. They get removed. I mean, imagine this guy versus a Bojack deck. What you kind of want to do is to be able to eke it out till turn 7. Then you remove their Bojack, and they've immediately lost a massive advantage. And Bojack doesn't have backup as either, remember. Now, if your opponent has backup as arrived, we have answers to that as well. This deck is a highly controlling deck. It has a lot of ways to remove, to mess with your opponent's different resources. That's warriors in play. That's obviously cards in their hand, as you could see with Piccolo and Pycon, and even Chi to an extent with Pycon. But we're not focusing too much on Chi. We're mostly focusing on removing warriors from their hands. So Majin Vegeta, absolutely brilliant card. Difficult to get it into play, but once you get this guy into play, he's going to take the game over again. Yes, he cannot deal with turn 6, 7 cards. That's what we have Fuse Majin Buu for, to deal with the extremely high end. But getting to up to turn 5, we are dealing with our opponent's warriors fairly easily through Majin Vegeta and through our techniques. Okay, so because of course we are running Alien Unique, we need to weigh up whether we want to run Evil Cannon or Powerful Heritage. And I've opted for Powerful Heritage just on the basis of, yes, it does exactly the same as Evil Cannon. We're not running Lord Slug, so we don't need our main pump technique to be unique. And I've banked on having Vegeta and Majin Vegeta in play. And when they use Powerful Heritage, obviously they're going to get the extra +2 with the Expert Saiyan ability. And all we really lose out on is that Evil Cannon can be played from turn 2 onwards. Powerful Heritage can be played from turn 3 onwards. Not really an issue, realistically. Because once we get into that range, we will be able to use Powerful Heritage. Don't keep this technique necessarily for Vegeta. Use it as and when it's required, but do bear in mind that if you're trying to go for game, having a Powerful Heritage in your hand and having a Vegeta, Majin Vegeta as your lead warrior in a team, this card will over your opponent, so you're going to get an overwhelming victory, because this immediate is going to give you a +5. And obviously a +5 difference or above will give you an overwhelming victory. So this is our pump. Extremely good. Obviously doesn't need much introduction. It's there. Now, because we are rocking Piccolo, Piccolo Jr., and obviously the set 5 Piccolo, I'm running 2 Regeneration of Lost Limbs. I'm really struggling to build any decks nowadays when I'm not running Piccolo Jr., either the set 5 or the set 3 Piccolo and Regeneration of Lost Limbs. Because Piccolo Jr. can be a chump blocker. When you evolve, the evolved card will come into play in healthy status. And then basically you can trick your opponent, go ahead, chump block with a Piccolo Jr. If you don't have Piccolo in your hand, run out Regeneration of Lost Limbs, heal up that Piccolo Jr., draw 2 cards, then you might draw into that Piccolo. Or if you got Piccolo in play, once you've evolved from Piccolo Jr. turn 4, you just have this ability to, okay, well, I need to block something. I don't want to lose Piccolo, but I'm happy with the guy just taking a hit. And you just send him up on his own. Okay, next turn, strategy, you heal him up, and you draw 2 cards again. Fantastic. And also, let alone, very importantly, even if Piccolo is injured, he still keeps his support combat value, which is amazing. He's still a 3 support, which is generally very good in the game. 3 support cards are good, particularly if you can get it down like turn 4. You can get Piccolo down on turn 4 and a Boo down on turn 4. Boo would be your deploy. Piccolo could be your evolution of Piccolo Jr. And through that, you've immediately put down. And these two in a team, if you just put these two in a team, you got a team of 11. You can also hear your Piccolo, or you may go ahead and okay, well I'm gonna play a Pycon. I want Pycon to be on the top, and I evolve into Piccolo. Now I got a team of 9. That's also fantastic. These guys will single-handedly tax your opponent out of cards in their hand, maybe a bit of chi. Either or is both. Both either or is really good. Both are really good. Okay, of course, we need to have a Dignity of the Conqueror, DOTC. Just very good defensively, offensively. Most people tend to try and use this card very offensively, but I probably told this story before. But against the self-destruction, I've um, I've chained up a DOTC and actually managed to save one of my big lead warriors, and then self-destruction basically wiped the board. But then because DOTC saved me that big warrior, I could bring it into play, and I actually won because I could do that. So fantastic card defensively as well, not just offensively. Now the main reason why we have Pycon in here is because we are running 2 Hyper Tornadoes. Hyper Tornado is another card that is very similar to Majin Buu. Again, if just basically on the surface, yes, it's a bit expensive. Yes, you need a Dragon Ball, but it can be used in either action or strategy. Again, remember, guys, that's yours or your opponent's action or strategy. And on the surface, if it's not Pycon using it, it basically is almost as good as a DOTC because um, you play this as a counter. You play this on the chain to your opponent playing a powerful heritage. This resolves first. You say that the target is the guy who's going to be using the powerful heritage. Now, target warrior your opponent controls cannot add its power to its team power and cannot be the user of techniques until the end of turn. So if this resolves before the powerful heritage, basically that warrior will not be able to resolve the powerful heritage. Your opponent lost those 2 chis, and also it's basically like being excluded from the battle. Its effects, yes, they are still in effect, and special abilities, yes, but none of the power is added to the team. And the cherry on the top is if this is played by Pycon, you can see at the bottom, Expert Pycon puts the target on top of its owner's planet at the end of turn. So not only can the Hyper Tornado completely nega Gogeta, it will then put it back on top of the deck, and that cannot happen. Gogeta is removed from play. Uh, Again, I'm saying that we are extremely effective against Fusion Warriors, but not only against Fusion Warriors. Uh, there used to be a lot of hype around Gogeta decks and how good they were, but there's a lot of counters to deal with Gogeta, to deal with Goku, Vegito, Gotenks, and even a Majin Buu. Although when Majin Buu comes into play, he's already done the deed, yeah? Enter the battlefield ability, basically. So once he comes down, he's done the thing. Now he's an A4. Now you might want to deal with some warrior deck can actually have a repeatable effect. And that's what we're trying to do here. Obviously, Majin Buu, Majin Vegeta, they both basically remove when they come into play, and it's you can't counter that. So that's the one of the main strengths of this deck. So the 1 copy of Pycon is in here to be able to get that beautiful cherry of Hyper Tornado, be able to put a warrior back on your top of your opponent's deck. Now imagine if that's a Super Saiyan 3 Goku. That's just amazing. They just spent probably at least 2 chi if they brought it into play by awakened by the anger. But then they obviously they've used the technique, they have played Goku from their hands, or if they just straight up hardcast it, then they paid 3 chi for that, and now you're just bouncing it back on top of their deck. Fucking fantastic. And you know what they're gonna draw next turn. Well, I mean, if you get through with the damage, then that's gonna go into planet damage as well. So it's such a strong removal. I mean, you play a Hyper Tornado, you're probably going to win that battle. Put back on top of their deck. Now, obviously, they're going to be losing cards through Fierce, or maybe through Thrash. Although we don't have Thrash in the deck, so but they could be losing cards through Fierce, or they might just charge that off SG. It's possible as well. So to deal with events, we're running 2 Shockwaves now. Honestly, Earth and Super are the colors that are really exceptionally good with removing events. Blue obviously has, or Alien has the access to Shockwave, and to be honest, Green or Unique doesn't really have any good or even any event removals I can think of. So having the 2 Shockwaves, yes, it's a little bit expensive, but I've talked about this card in previous Alien decks that I've built. It's a very good card. Ultimately, it's a super good card, and also you don't have to use it with your lead warrior, which is another massive benefit because the lead warriors are normally the main targets of your opponent's sort of disruption techniques. So if you got like a Piccolo just chilling in the back, you got Pycon up top, your opponent might be looking to get rid of that Pycon. Well, why not pump the Piccolo? And this will give you +0 +X equal to the turn cost of the warrior that plays this. So imagine Piccolo will give himself +6. So he will become a 9, 7, 9. So you got a 15 team power if Piccolo pulls off a Shockwave. And then on the cherry on the top, you're removing events. Well, you can remove one event, which is equal or less. The turn cost of it is equal or less to the user's turn cost. So again, having access to go into Piccolo on turn 4 rather than turn 6 will allow you to just remove whatever events you want by playing Shockwave. Fantastic. Just super, super fantastic. Our final 2 techniques are 2 copies of the Big Bang Attack. I think that goes without saying. Obviously, our Super Saiyan Vegeta can shoot this turn 5 for only 2 chi and without the Dragon Ball requirement. If the opposing warrior has a turn cost of 4 or less, you give it 2 damage, otherwise you give it 1 damage. So even, I mean, again, as I said, turn 4, the Big Bang Attack just completely kills anything that's 4 cost or below, toughness permitting. Obviously, toughness is one of those things where, yes, you won't be able to deal 2 damage in one go. But, if you damage your opponent's card with toughness, and then you go into leave the action phase and go into showdown, then obviously they can still be removed, because toughness doesn't say that it can only be damaged by 1 per turn. It can only be damaged by 1 particular effect. So 2 damage or above would be brought back down to 1. That's what toughness does. But remember that Big Bang Attack will still give 1 damage to any warrior that has a turn cost of 5 or above. So, if that's all you need, then Big Bang Attack is still pretty much going to do what it's supposed to do. It's not an immediate, okay, it's now gone, it's gone to the chi area, but it will open up that venue to win that particular battle. And then through winning that battle, if you then damage your opponent's lead warrior and you targeted the lead warrior with Big Bang Attack, then you will still be winning, you will still be removing that warrior. Moving on to events. Of course, set 5 has given a massive pump for the Boo archetype. We're running 2 copies of Threat Multiplied. We're running a lot of 2-ofs, a few 1-offs here. That's purely because of Wheelo. Wheelo will give that digging power to us to be able to get into our hands whatever we want at any point in time. So Threat Multiply, fantastic card. The time limit 3 is a very long time. It immediately replaces itself because you can search your deck for a Majin Warrior card, which of course will be either the Buu or the Kid Buu. No, we cannot search for Majin Vegeta because he's brainwashed. He's not a Majin card actually, um, but he can get you a Buu or a Kid Buu. Now these two cards can be in play at the same time. You can have a Buu and a Kid Buu in play at the same time. They're not the same personalities. But what you can also do is only have one of them in play. If you got the other one in your hand, you can go and fuse into Majin Buu. So you're not losing a turn's deploy to bring a Kid Buu down and the Buu down and then fuse into a Majin Buu. Not only that, but as long as you got this card in play, okay, you had the Kid Buu in your hand, you had the Buu in play, you fuse into these, both of them go into your Chi. But if you have another Buu in your hand or another Kid Buu in your hand, if you haven't yet deployed, this allows you to have the same personalities in place, just like Alternate Future or Cell Jr. So you could still play another Kid Buu, or you could play another Buu and be like, okay, now I got a team of 12. Deal with that. Or you could also play Kid Buu and still get a team of 12. But now Kid Buu is giving you that fierce, that giving you that, okay, if I win through showdown and an opponent gets discarded, then that goes into. So it's just giving you a lot of options. It's just giving you a number of different variabilities depending what you got in your hand. You could also, and this is probably the easiest one, let's say you got Buu in play, you got Kid Buu in your hand, you fuse into Majin Buu, they go into your Chi. You could now back up for Buu, okay? You back up for Buu, and then you can play Buu. Because, again, as long as you haven't had that deployment, this will allow you to have both in play. This is a Majin Buu. Kid Buu is an evil Majin Buu. He has obviously both evil Majin Buu and Majin Buu, but you can have technically all three of them in play as long as you got threat multiplied out there. So again, just a lot of flexibility. You can take the game through a number of different ways, different avenues. And this is our main focus, obviously, to have this Majin package, to have this really nice removal package through a number of means. You know, uh, we can get we can remove through Majin Vegeta, we can remove through Majin Buu, we can remove through Big Bang Attack, we can remove through Hyper Tornado, we can, of course, mess with our opponent with DOTC again, that can give you an OV. The Shockwave can give you an OV if you use it with a really, like, even just like with Buu, Buu can also go up to a 3-8. You know, similar to Piccolo can be your best as a 7-9, but Buu can be a 3-8 of Shockwave. And also Powerful Heritage, if it's used by Vegeta or Majin Vegeta, that can give you an OV. So pretty much all our techniques will be allowing us, and many of our warriors will be allowing us to get very good value out of our cards, extremely high hit rates, straight up removal in many cases. So it's a very nasty, very nasty deck indeed. Um, and then we have one card left in the deck, and this is really just a safety valve. You can replace it with a third copy of Threat Multiplied if you really want to go down that avenue, but I'm running one copy of Journey of Adventure, and again, I've said this time and time on, this is basically um, the budget version of the Set 5 Old Kai. It does exactly the same thing, um, and it's basically splashable. Yes, it's an Earth Guard, but as you look there, it's one generic chi. What it costs. So you bring Journey of Adventure down. Let's say you also have your old Kai out. That means during your turn, you put 2 cards back from your discard to the bottom of your deck, and then during your opponent's turn, during their strategy phase, you also put 2 cards back from your discard back into your deck. So even if you come across a well-built, really heavy-hitting Bojack's Gang deck that tries to maximize the fears, tries to maximize that mill effect, if you get these two in play with all the removals you got, you're not going to have a problem. You really won't have a problem. You just have to make sure you keep getting rid of the Bojack Gang cards. Particularly, I would say the probably the most nasty and most multifunctional Bojack Gang cards are, of course, Zangia and Bujin. So yeah, you want to keep an eye on those two. Realistically, Beto doesn't really do much if you haven't got a good 2-3 Bojack's Gang Warriors down. Um, Bojack himself is very easily removable because he doesn't have backup, and Kogu again. Kogu doesn't really do much unless you have, at least a couple of other Bojack's Gang cards down. But Kogu really becomes good when you want to make like a team of 4. So you'll be looking to do that at probably turn 4. Turn 1 you play Kogu, then Bujin, then Zangia, then Beto. Um, don't worry about it. Remove Zangia and Bojin, and you've taken out the key players from that project. Then. But yeah, anyway, that's enough of me blubbering about this deck. This was the Majin deck profile, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. This is a very strong tier 1 deck. Yes, it is difficult to play, but it's an absolutely massacre when it is in the hands of a capable player. So up until next time, guys, peace out, Busse, and signing out.